the one, the only Benzion. Okay, good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun with Benzion. Tonight we're doing Maseches Nazir Daf Nun Daled, number 54. There's a very interesting machlokas over here in two different places. The end of the Gemara, Nun Gimel and Beis, talks about a brisa, which darshans the last words on Nun Gimel and Beis, O bekever, zek kever sasam. It's darshaning a brisa. It's not really related to the discussion between Reuel and Reish Lakish that the Gemara is talking about, but it's quoted, kever sasam. Kever sasam is metame. What exactly is a kever sasam? A closed coffin. That's what it means. The Amar Mar, and the Gemara continues in the Aleph and Aleph, Tuma bokas v'ola bokas yeredis. Seemingly, this line, the next line in the Dalam and Aleph, on the top, we know elsewhere in the Gemara, that Tuma, at least Tuma that's enclosed and basically closed off, it shoots up and down, all the way up to the space, all the way down to the bottom of the earth, wherever a corpse is. Somehow it's related to Kever Sasam. So the Mefarish, which I believe is Rashi over here, says, there's no chalal tefach between the top of the coffin and the dead person, right? It's less than a chalal tefach. There's less than a space of a tefach. So therefore it's compressed, the tumah. Because it's compressed, it shoots up. That's all I'm saying. It shoots up and down, all the way to Shamayim, all the way. No matter, even though you have the top of the coffin, even though you have dirt on top of it, even if you would put some chatzitza, you put some sort of interposition, if you're going on a plane above, 1,000 feet, thousands of feet above the ground, and you're in a plane, a moving plane, right? That's only by a kever sasam, only where there's less than a chal tefa. If it's not a chal tefa, if there is a chal tefa, meaning if the person's buried in a coffin, and between the dead person and the top of the coffin is a tefach, this halacha Moshe said wouldn't apply. It wouldn't say bokas or bokas yaredis. That's what the Gemara is saying. That's a simple explanation of the Gemara. The Gemara joins the two together. Now, this is the way Rashi explains the Gemara. The Art Scroll does not pick Rashi's explanation, but picks the Rosh and Tosaf's explanation, because they have a totally different understanding of Tumas Bokas, all the Bokas Yeredis. They hold always, whether there's a tefach between the dead person and the top of the coffin, or whether there's less than whether there is a tefach or not a tefach, it's always Bokas, all the Bokas Yeredis. So what does Kever Sasam tell me? Kever Sasam talking about a case where it's completely enclosed. There's no holes in the coffin. And specifically, not like Rashi, there is a space of a tevach between the dead person and the top of the coffin. And the halacha is that it teaches me that not just where the dead person is, but the entire coffin becomes tummy, extending obviously to the open spaces in the thing and the walls of the coffin and the top of the coffin. The whole thing becomes tummy. What's the nafkamina? The nafkamina is, let's say I would walk on top of this person who's buried, but I would walk on top of where the coffin, where the dead person is, right? A coffin, I don't know how big the coffins are. The average person's height is 5'10" for a man, 5'6" for a woman, let's say. But the coffins are bigger. It could be 7 feet. I don't know. So let's say you walk on the part of the coffin, over the part of the coffin where the dead person is not, right? Do you become tumas owel? So that's the nafkamina. The nafkamina is, that's what Tosafos and the Rosh learn. Kever Sasam means that if there's a space of tech between the dead person and that, so then it would fill up the entire coffin. And even if you walk on top of the coffin where the dead person is not, you would become tummy. However, if there's less than a tefach, then the tefach, the tumah just shoots up from the corpse and does not fill the entire coffin. And therefore you wouldn't become tummy if you go on top of the coffin where the dead person is not. But in both cases, we would say bokas v'ola bokas yaredis. There's just a question of, is the entire kever bokas v'ola yaredis, or just where the dead person is? Whether there's a tefach or not, always bokas v'ola yaredis. So therefore, the Gemara, when it says Damar Mar Tum bokas v'ola bokas yaredis, Tosafos is a problem with this Gemara. It's not related to kever sasam, especially Tosafos' explanation. Kever sasam is talking about where there is not where there is a chal tefach. So therefore, Tosafos says b'chdi aisa dahailo aidi b'kever. He said there's no reason when the Gemara brings this halacha, and the way our school explains, there's no reason that the Gemara brings tumah bakas v'la bakas. It's just teaching you that there's a concept of tumas owel. When a Jewish person, a Jewish corpse is buried, the tumas owel. If you are ma'il, if you make a roof, or there is a roof on top of the corpse, even though he's buried under the ground, you become tummy. You walk in the cemetery, problem. Now, this is a fundamental machlokas over here. According to Rashi, the concept that it shoots up and breaks through all interpositions, all chatzitzos, is only when there's less than a tefach between the corpse and the top of the coffin. If there's more than a tefach, then it would be kept internally in the coffin. Maybe even the ground would interpose, the ground that you bury, the earth that you bury the coffin in, would interpose between a person walking on top of that grave. Could be Kohanim according to Rashi. If the way, I don't know exactly how big coffins are in America. Here in Israel, right? Here in Israel, people are buried in the ground. So really, I guess too much always bokasva, all bokasva, because the ground is exactly on top of the person. The person's buried in his talus, buried. But in America, where people are outside of Eretz Yisrael, people are buried in coffins. If there is, I think there usually is a chalal tefach. So if there is a chalal tefach, there's no tumah b'kasva yoredes, according to Rashi. And therefore, a lot of people are machmir not to fly. If you're a Kohen, not to fly in an airplane that goes over a Jewish cemetery, because of this halacha, tumah b'kasva yoredes, it wouldn't apply in most cases because the coffins have a tefach between the dead person and the top of the coffin. Now, this also affects the next Mishnah, where it says, Golo, mentions these words, Golo v'dofik. Golo v'dofik are part, somehow, of the burial process, but they're not exactly like touching a corpse itself, and that's why a Nazir is not megaleach, the Mishnah says. What is a Golo v'dofik? So Rashi, in Maseches Ksuvos, a lot of people have done Maseches Ksuvos, in Yeshiva, they learn this Rashi, Rashi says, Golo is the roof of the coffin, and Dofik are the walls of the coffin, which is basically what the Mefarish says over here on the last Rashi, and Gimel we just read before. She'ein bochal tevach bein ha-meis v'ha-golo, right? Talking about the coffin. Golo is the roof. That's exactly what Rashi says in Maseches Ksuvos. Same Rashi. People think Mefarish and Nazir is not Rashi. It's Rashi. Why would you think it's not Rashi? I don't know where they got this Masorah that the Rashi and Nadarim and Nazir is not Rashi. It is Rashi. So the same thing with Maseches Ksuvos. So, according to Rashi, that's goal of Dofik, and that's a chiddush, goal of a Dofik, right? Because according to Rashi, if there's a tefach between the mace and the top of the coffin, the golel, right? So that's the chiddush of goal of a Dofik, right? That the rest of the entire coffin becomes tamei. Now it's not a severe. It's almost like part of the kever. It's almost like the part of the dead person. If there's a chalal tefach, if there's no chalal tefach, then there's no goal of a dofik, right? That's because we ignore the rest of the coffin, right? Goal of a dofik, and that's what Rashi explains. Goal of a dofik is, right, when there is a chalal tefach, when there is a space of a tefach between the dead person and the top of the coffin, it fills up the entire coffin. It makes the entire coffin tam. Because according to Rashi, if it's not a chalal tefach, then we never factor in the rest of the grave. According to Tosfos, you always factor in, right? According to Tosfos, right, that's part of it. If there's a chalal tefach, right, that's what Kever Sasim taught me. Kever Sasim teaches me everything becomes like the mace himself. So if everything becomes mace like self, then Gol of a Dofik should make a Nazir Megaleach. So that's why Tosfos has to explain, or being a Tom, basically one of the Bali Tosfos, has to explain in Maseches Ksuvos, Gol of a Dofik are basically stones above the ground, right, the tombstone, and some people have a stone laying across the where the coffin is, and then a head, a tombstone, where you put rocks and stuff like that, where you write nice things about the person. Those are above the ground, so that's what Tosfos explains. Goal of a dofik there, it's almost like the corpse, but it's not completely like the corpse because no, there's not megaleach on that, and that's why goal of a dofik according to Tosfos, because we already know. Right, if there's a chalal tefach, there's a space of a tefach, then Tosfos learns already here in the Masechta that it's like the dead person. The entire the tumah fills up the entire coffin. So the coffin is exactly like the dead person. That's why he says goal of a dofik is something which is not exactly the dead person. It must be above ground. It must be not the coffin. It's talking about the tombstones on top. That's the way of explaining, understanding Rashi and Tosfos. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.